Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hiya guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. And we are going to take a look at an album that features a decade quite close to my heart, and that of course is Now That's What I Call the Noughties. So the Noughties of course is from 2000 to 2009, slapping the big zeros on there, the Noughties, the aughts, however you want to call it. We tend to call it the Noughties here in the United Kingdom. And here is the front cover. What I love is this font, particularly on the That's What I Call is a very like early 2000s font I remember seeing a lot. Even the image on the front, where whatever it is, just it sort of screams early 2000s, so it's nice to see they've echoed that or done their research. Here's the spine. This has a little blue trim around the outside, which doesn't happen on many. And there's a little scuff there, I think, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, there's your spine. And of course, we now take a look at the all-important track list. So here is CD1 kicking off with Back to Black, Crazy, Mercy. So a lot of strong songs there already. And here we go, scrolling down now. A lot of these, of course, I grew up with. I grew up in the early 2000s, born in the 90s, but mainly grew up in the 2000s. Onto CD2. So a lot of these songs I remember coming out. A lot of them I remember loving as a child. And, you know, your school discos and your parties and stuff. So I think overall, in his CD3, they do cover a lot of great things on here. I'll talk more about the track list a bit more later on, and of course this was released in 2017, which was last year, by the Sony Music Corporation. So overall you have, 21, 20, that's 41, and 20. So there's 61 Noughties classics on here, which I think is pretty good bang for your buck. But of course now what we shall do, once I've put it back, we shall take a look inside. It's the home fit music in your pocket, it's the Now Music app. And moving on like we don't care. Here is disc 1, which again there's that sort of 2000s-y font that I used to see everywhere. Logos on the side instead of the top, nice difference, purple with our orange trims. And I sort of like this technical, almost looks like, you know, part of a circuit. Don't know if that screams early 2000s, but it's a nice print, that's for sure. Here is CD2, which is a yellow print with sort of a burgundy purpley trim, not as attractive as the other disc. I do like this one. Disc 3's got navy blue with a sort of gold trim there. So overall these are nice discs, nice prints. I think disc 1's the better out of the three. Again, I'm not sure if the circuit board sort of thing screams early 2000s, but it's definitely a nice effect nonetheless. So I guess the question is, does this album live up to its title, as in representing the best of the Noughties? And I think for the most part it actually does. I mean, let's have another look at the track list. You have a lot of iconic songs like Ignition Remix, for example, It Wasn't Me, Hey Ya, Back to Black, of course. A lot of, I mean, if you think about it, look, I mean, Uptown Girl by Westlife, don't quite know why that's on there. I think there was a lot better songs you could have picked, but then you've got things like I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry, which was huge when that came out. Just like Rock DJ by Robbie Williams and A Little Less Conversation remix. What I mean is they've picked a lot of songs that are just, you know, they were the 2000s when they came out. Jordan Sparks feat Chris Brown, No Air, that's one of the best songs of the decade, I think. Not many people agree with me. You've got Ordinary People by John Legend, Call on Me by Eric Prydz, Crank That by Soulja Boy was one of the first viral songs going out back in 2007. But so you see what I mean? They've picked a lot of songs that were so iconic and meant so much to people back then. Not all of them maybe are, you know, standouts now. I mean, I'm just trying to pick one, for example. But, Dancing in the Moonlight, this is Stargate Radio Mix. It's not the original. And to be honest, I just don't think they should have included it, because this is not a good version of the song, in my opinion. Either do the original or just leave it out. And you got more of the rocky sort of songs here. So, and that's what I mean. What's nice is you sort of cater for both. You know, CDs 1 and 2 are mainly the mainstream pop stuff. CD3 is a bit more of the rock, a bit more of the alternative scene. Like you've got all the bands and the singers who focused on the rock genre. The Man Who Can't Be Moved by the Script's a really lovely song. And so overall I think you've got a really wide range of genres and a wide scope of the early 2000s and late 2000s, of course, because this is the whole decade. Now, where can you find this album? You can still find it new in HMV. It's part of their 2 for £15 range, or if you just want to buy it on its own, it will set you back about £9. You can get this second-hand, of course, so, you know, CEX, charity shops and the like. Not sure how much they go for in there these days, probably slightly less than £9 or just around that price as well. And who is this album for? Well, I mean, if you're like me and you grew up in the 2000s, then I think you'll find a lot to love about this album. It's a lot of the songs you'll remember. It's a lot of the songs that are now seen as classic, iconic, that were big hits at the time. A lot of artists that sadly are no longer writing new music or releasing new music, but back then were like on top of their game. It's just a very nice album for me. Obviously, if you're not a fan of mainstream pop and, say, modern music, then there may not be too much for you. But again, look at the third disc, because there are more of the rock and alternative stuff on there as well. But I think a lot of people would find this album nice in some way, even if it's just for some sort of like nostalgic party, or if you want to recapture what the school discos were like of the 2000s, you know, just recapture those memories. So there is a lot to like. There is a lot to like about this album indeed. For me personally, I'd say it's up there with one of my favourites, but I think that's mainly nostalgia. As I said, I grew up in the 2000s, so of course I'm going to love this album. There is a lot to like. There's a bit of crossover with some other Now spin-offs song-wise, but if you just want a sampling of the 2000s, you aren't going to find a much better album than this one. So that is all this week for this instalment of the Now Review. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, please like and leave your comments on the video, share it around, please subscribe to the channel. So until the next one, I will see you guys next time.
Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Jen Samantha Pringle, Kelly is Live, Tracy Smith, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry Holt, The Welsh Lady, Bruce Danton, The Broken Kitsumanoid, and Cooking at Nans and DIY, our AMTV staff members.